Welcome guys and welcome to a Cryptomindd update. Let's update on Bitcoin and let's see what could be potentially next for Bitcoin in the next coming weeks and months. Before we go to the weekly and the monthly time frame and other things, let's talk quickly about the daily. So far for the long-term perspective, the daily has zero information for us. Literally nothing. The only thing that I could become bullish of is if we break above this zone here of 29.5k roughly. If we break above that, then logically, yeah, I will become more bullish as the structure of the market breaks again. But as if for now, that's likely not the case and will likely not happen anytime soon, I guess. But if we do, and if we manage to get back above this level here, for now at least, this is a key level, key structural level. If we get above, logically, this choppy zone that last time made us drop down will be next. And then above, we might have more interesting zones like around 35, 34.5k. But for now, for me, this 29.5k region in general remains interesting together with the 35k or 34.5k region also. I will talk later about that, why I think it's interesting. But let's get into the weekly and into the monthly time frame and let's see what we are heading into. Or let's go immediately to the monthly. It might be even more interesting. So if we look at the monthly here, the data is very clear. The first thing that I notice is this 50 MA level, this indicator here. Now, normally I don't really use indicators in general. I like to focus on naked price action. But this is a useful potential or a potential useful indicator for us to spot where our potential bottom could be for Bitcoin. So if we look here, since the 50 MA has been popped off, we touched the MA and we had a bull run. Then after a long time, in 2019, we hit this MA roughly again. We came very close to it and price started to go back up. Same thing then happened, boom, 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 boom. We had a downtrend, a little bit upside momentum, COVID hitting somewhere here, and boom, the market spikes all the way down, hitting this 50 MA and going a little bit under it. But so far in the historical data, basically, we can assume that as if for now, this 50 MA always counted as the bottom for Bitcoin. Now, if we look at it, we spiked a little bit under here, and if we look how much percentage we roughly spiked under it, it was around between 25 and 30% roughly. If we do the same here, which is very possible, I don't close it out that this is not possible, that we go back towards these zones. But if we do and we look, this 25%, 30% region is around 14, 15K. So for me, this is a very possible outcome. Not that it will happen. Again, this is all based on historical data, not on facts or whatever. This is just based on data that we find into the charts. If we do, we retest this level here. But there's even a more interesting level for us, and that's as well around 9.8k roughly here. This minor zone. If I had to draw it or mark it, it will look something like only like this. It's a very minor zone, but I will show you in a second why. This zone seems pretty interesting as well for me to pay attention to, at least. Not that we will hit it, but it's the possibility is obviously always there. Is that if we look at the Bitcoin CME futures chart, we can see multiple gaps in the market. Now, here's the thing. Gaps always get refilled. So what can we see? If we look here already, we had a gap here between 26k, 26.1-ish, and 24.5k, right? So if we mark this gap here, we can see that this week we are retesting this whole gap. And it took Bitcoin around, if we from this level here, around 532 days estimated to refill this gap. Here's the thing with CME futures gap. They always get retested. Always. No matter how long it takes, the gaps will get retested sooner or late. That brings me back to my former thing that I said, is that 28.5K, 29K-ish level seems pretty interesting here. Why? Because we have a CME futures gap here also. So let me delete this one. We have a CME futures gap here also. And if we look at this gap, sooner or late, it has to be retested. That always happens with CME futures gaps. But above, we have another gap here between 35.2-ish and 34.5-ish. We have two CME futures gaps above us that sooner or late 100% chance will be retested. But if we look all the way down, we have a very, very, very minor gap in the market also. And this is here. If we look and we mark this small zone, as I said before, we can clearly see that there is a small gap in the markets. You can even make it a little bit larger like this. There is a small gap here in the market, and this is something where I'm paying attention to. As I said, we cannot predict the future for Bitcoin or where price exactly will go, but we can indicate that this is a possibility that we retest this level sooner or late. Just based on historical data and the gaps in the market, there is a possibility for us to sooner or later revisit 9.8, 9.5K. But more interesting as if for now, because obviously it's still another 55 or 60% down towards that level. But overall, this 50 MA and this zone here are the first most attractive thing to me when it comes down to seeing a potential bottom in Bitcoin. Now, here's the thing. We will only know that there is a potential bottom for Bitcoin when price starts to consolidate. This is as well based on historical data. So if we look in the past, and I mean really go back in time, where we had this first sick-ass crypto bull run, which was basically here. The first small bear market happened with a little bit of consolidation in between. Then we popped off, but more clear is here. We have this whole bull run where we went down a beautiful 83%, 87%, 86%, something like that. Then we had this nice consolidation here of multiple months before heading into a new bull market. The same happened then in the last, or when we hit the 20K, an unforgettable moment for most of the people that are already a while in crypto. We dropped down as well a nice 83%, and we had a good 3-4 months of consolidation also before starting to head it higher. Then eventually COVID hit for a last drop, but then the market took off also. So overall for me, based on this, I will expect as well for Bitcoin to find some stabilization in the market and to potentially consolidate for a few months between, let's say, this is not accurate at all, but let's say between a 17K and a 24K. If we constantly consolidate between that level for multiple months, there is a potential or a possibility that Bitcoin found a bottom. Now, another last thing that is interesting, we had an 80% drop here. We had a 83% drop here. So if we have to estimate between 86 and 83%, we're going to go for 84.5%. And an 84.5% drop is somewhere close to the 10K, close to this CME futures gap that I was talking about earlier on in the video. So guys, that's basically it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.